All right, so the recording has started as well. Okay, so we were discussing about the course CSE 445 of machine learning. So let's just straight dive in to what this course is going to be about. Okay, so I'll discuss the course outline first of all with you guys. Okay, we will discuss about the logistics to machine learning. So that's something we're gonna discuss. We are going to discuss about, maybe I'll just very briefly tell you what is machine learning and what kind of problems do we solve using machine learning. Okay, I think since it's the first class, I think just a bit of idea of what machine learning is and what kind of problems do we approach using machine learning is good enough for today. From the next class onward, we're going to go into all sorts of details and stuff like that. Okay, so I'll straight on go to course outline. Before I do that, so all of you, this is your uh, Google Classroom account. So okay, all of you are over here. So if you go to the classwork tab, okay, so you'll be seeing that I've posted certain things over here. We'll go through these things. Okay, as this course is going to run more and more materials will be populated in this particular tab. Okay, all right, so today we basically want to discuss a little bit about we'll discuss the course outline, and we will probably discuss the machine learning processes. ঠিক আছে? Okay, একটা machine learning project বা একটা machine learning tasks বা data science tasks করছো, okay, করতে গেলে like what are the different steps you need to go through and stuff like that. So probably we'll discuss a little bit about that. So after that you'll have a bit of idea of what happens in a machine learning project. ঠিক আছে? Okay, আচ্ছা. Now let's dive straight into the course outline. So all materials that I will cover will be available, okay, in this classwork tab. Okay? So everything will be available there. Okay, so let's get started with the course outline right now. Okay, so this course is called machine learning. Course code is CSE 445 section 1. Okay, now all of you know who I am, so there is no point of introducing myself. Okay, the classes take place at 9:40 to 11:10 on Sundays and Tuesdays. Okay, that's what's going to happen. Okay, this is my email address in case you need to contact me. Okay, so let's go straight into the textbooks. Now I have actually given here 4 books. I suggested 4 books. Now you don't need to have all those 4 books with you. Okay, we'll discuss what is there in each of these textbooks, and these are just some reference books. Okay, all right, so for the first textbook, that's called machine learning. The name is machine learning by Tom Mitchell. Okay, and it's a pretty old book, 1997. 1997 means it's more than 20 years old, right? Okay, so it's a pretty old book, but it's a very good book. Okay, if you want to understand the theories of machine learning, if you want to understand the concepts behind machine learning, it's actually a really good book. Okay, and this person, Tom Mitchell, okay, is one of the I would say he has contributed a lot in machine learning. Okay, so definitely he's one of the, I would say, legends in machine learning. He's one of the person who has contributed significantly in the area of machine learning. Okay, so that's the book, Machine Learning by Tom M. Mitchell, and this is 1997. So bit old, but still it's a very, very good book. Okay, the second textbook is also a very good textbook. Okay, so I would strongly encourage to actually have a copy of these 2 books. Okay, the second textbook is more about the practical perspective of machine learning, right? Now you understand the concepts of machine learning, but it is no good if you cannot do anything. Okay, all right, so we will go through lots of practical stuff over here. So and this book actually has done fairly well. It's called Hands-on Machine Learning with Scikit-learn, Keras, and TensorFlow: Concepts, Tools, and Techniques to Build Intelligent Systems. Okay, all right, and it's a very good book, and it's also a very recent book, published in 2019. Okay, so I would strongly suggest you to have a copy of both these books. Okay, all right, I'm going to discuss a lot of concepts from both the books. Okay, all right, so that's what's going to happen. And now apart from textbooks, I have also suggested 2 more books. Now I don't suggest that you have to have these books, but these are good books. Okay, So the first one I suggested over here is called the Introduction to Machine Learning with Python. So that's also, like the textbook number 2 যেটাতে দেওয়া আছে, it's like more practical stuffs discuss করা আছে, it's like that. But I particularly think that textbook number 2 যে বইটা suggest করা আছে, it has more materials than this one. Okay, all right, but nonetheless it's also a very, very good book. Okay, it's written in 2020, published in 2016. And then we have another book called Pattern Recognition and Machine Learning. Now this is slightly different from what we discussed, but yet it covers some very, very interesting concepts. But this is more suitable for if you're discussing things like deep learning and pattern recognition, stuff like that. Okay, I think this is more suitable for, and you have a course called Pattern Recognition and Neural Networks. This book would be probably the most suitable for that particular course. Okay, but nonetheless, many of the concepts would overlap. So, and it's a very good book as well by Bishop. Okay. All right. So these are my suggested textbooks and references. Okay. Now it's written what we're going to cover in this particular book. Okay. So for the first thing, so I'm not going to discuss all these things in detail because many of these things that I'm going to say over here might seem very strange simply because you haven't done these things. Okay. But I'll just highlight some of the points that I've mentioned over here. First of all, this is a foundation course on machine learning. So you will have a fairly good idea about what machine learning is, how to use machine learning in different, situations. Okay, so we'll be discussing about that. Okay, so you'll have after this course a very good idea about how to use machine learning in different sets and in different situations. Okay, now after completing this course successfully, a student should have deep insights on machine learning concepts and will have the knowledge of applying machine learning in understanding and forecasting data. So that's very important. So not only we understand the concept, we discuss the concept, okay, around machine learning, we also focus a lot about the engineering perspective of that. Like how do you really use the machine learning to actually deal with a real data set, okay, or real situations. So we're gonna look into those sort of things as well. Okay. The rest of the things are a little bit more, technical things. I'll ignore this for the time being, but these things will be clear as, this course is going to unfold. Okay. All right. So prerequisite. Now, this is very, very important. What is a prerequisite of this course? Now, I don't think like you have any prerequisite as such, right? এরকম কোনো prerequisite কি আপনাদের আছে যে এটা শেষ করে তারপর এই কোর্সটা করতে হবে, এরকম কি কোনো prerequisite আছে? না মনে হয়, right?
No, sir.
No, sir. Although it's not there, but clearly you can imagine CSE ফার্স্ট সেমিস্টারে যে স্টুডেন্টটা জয়েন করছে সে যদি বলে আমি এখন সিএসসি 115 না করে আগে মেশিন লার্নিং করি, এটার তো কোনো প্রিরিকুইজিট নাই, that will not definitely work. ঠিক আছে? So it is meant for a little bit senior students. Okay, so there are certain concepts that we will assume that you have. ঠিক আছে? Okay, so what are the concepts that I'm going to assume that you have? What are the concepts? Now, even if you haven't done that, okay, these things will actually come. So we'll just discuss what are the prerequisites that will actually, that will be important. Okay. First of all, it is expected that students pursuing the course have a mature level of understanding in, number one, algorithms. Okay. So you probably already have done a number of courses around algorithms. So there are courses like you have done some programming courses. CSE 115 was there, 215 was there. You have done some data structures and algorithms as well, like 225. Then you have done 373 perhaps as well. Okay, so that will help a little bit. So if you have some understanding of algorithms, programming, that will definitely be helpful. So because in this course, you're not going to just learn concepts, you're also going to do programming. So some mature level of understanding of algorithms and data structure would definitely be very crucial. Okay, and I guess all of you have that, right? Did all of you have done CSE 373? Although CSE 373 করতেই হবে এমন কোনো কথা নাই, but let me just see, can you raise your hand if you have done CSE 373?
স্যার আমি একবার করে আবার এই সেমিস্টারে করতেছি, দুবার করতেছি।
Okay, all right. So, okay, so you have done it, but not successfully, right? Okay, acha. So let me just see, right? Here we are. How many of you raised hands? Okay, quite a lot. I can see. Well, a lot of you have actually done this one. Okay, you can lower your hand. That's okay. Thank you so much. So that's one thing. So a fair, good idea about algorithms is a good thing to have. And all of you have done it. ঠিক আছে 370 না করলে অসুবিধা নেই. You guys have done definitely 225, 215 এগুলো তো করেছেন. So you have ideas about writing programs and stuff like that. So that would be something which is important. Okay. Number 2, have you guys all done linear algebra? Math 1 to 5. সবাই math 1 to 5 করেছেন? You don't need to raise your hand. I know all of you have done math 1 to 5, right? And that would be also very, very useful. Okay. And now this is very important. How many of you have done probability and statistics? Have you done any course on probability and statistics?
Yes, sir.
I think you have a course called, what do you call it? Math 361? Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sure.
So many of you have done Math 361? Okay. Now, it turns out that probability and statistics, this course will be very, 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 very important. And we will be actually using a lot of concepts from this particular course. Okay. So now let me ask you a little bit. Let me see how many of you know these things. Okay. So first of all, can anyone tell me what kind of things do you do in this course, Math 361? Anybody? What kind of things do you do? কি করেন? Math 361 কি করেন? কি পড়েন? Can you just name some topics? That would be good enough for me to understand.
Sir, discrete and continuous.
Discrete probability, right?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that what you said?
And continuous, sir.
Okay.
Distribution.
Distribution অনেক বড় টপিক.
Central theorem, something like that.
Central limit theorem. Okay. All right. Have you so I'm sure you have done lots of graphs, right? অনেক ধরনের গ্রাফ হয়তো draw করেছেন, right? নাকি না? Histogram, bar chart.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you done things like, let's say, box and whisker plots? No?
Yes,
Nobody
sir.
have done box and whisker
Yes,
plots?
sir.
Do you know concepts of correlation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Correlation.
Correlation করেছেন আপনারা? Have you been able to find, like, if I give you some data, could you find out what is the linear correlation between the two variables? Let's say x এর অনেকগুলো data আছে, corresponding y এর অনেকগুলো data আছে. Okay. And if I ask you what is the linear correlation between these two variables? Okay. And not only just find this out using a formula. What does that mean? ঠিক আছে? What does that linear correlation mean? A concepts scholar, you'll see these will come a lot in machine learning. Okay. Have you done things like regression? Statistics and regression করেছেন? না? কেউ regression করেনি? Statistics is a very simple thing. না?
Sir, online course একবার করেছিলাম.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. All right. Yeah. Have you guys, do you know what feature scaling is? Probably not. ঠিক আছে? Probably not. Do you know what's a Valin plot? Probably not. Okay. Okay. ঠিক আছে. That's okay. No worries. ঠিক আছে. A conditional probability. Have you done conditional probability?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
And do you understand what does conditional probability mean? Okay. Right. That's also very important. Not just calculate a value, but এটা মানেটা কি? এটা actually what does it tell you? ঠিক আছে? Okay. Now, in any case, don't worry too much. Okay, because whenever we are going to discuss any concepts pertaining to any concepts of machine learning that would require concepts from statistics, probability, or some other fields, I will cover them. ঠিক আছে? I will discuss that much which is required to understand the concepts in machine learning. So that I'll do. But I'll just very to emphatically boli, a courses are going to be very, very useful. ঠিক আছে? So if you have a good idea about probability and statistics, okay, yeah, you'll find a lot of things make sense a lot. ঠিক আছে? Okay. All right. But it doesn't mean that if you don't know certain concepts in probability and statistics, you'll be lost in machine learning. You'll not be, because I teach it in such a way that I include all those background ideas about as well. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's there. Okay, this is the tentative lecture sequence that we have. So this is how I would like to discuss. Okay, and that's a lot of topic actually, in fact. Okay, but I would like to discuss in this particular way. So we're gonna discuss about introduction to machine learning, what is concept learning. Now, এগুলো আমরা next class থেকে শুরু হয়ে যাবে, হ্যাঁ? Then we're gonna start discussing about data visualization technique, pre-processing of data. Okay. Why is this important? How do you do that? What are the different techniques to do that? So we're going to discuss all this stuff. Then we'll look at something called classification problem in machine learning. এবং এখানে গিয়ে আপনি প্রথম ক্লাসিফায়ার, প্রথম একটা মেশিন লার্নিং অ্যালগরিদম শেখা শুরু করবেন এই পার্টিকুলার ইয়েতে টপিকে এসে, রাইট? সো ইউ লার্ন অ্যাবাউট সামথিং কল্ড 0R and 1R classifier. Okay, then we'll discuss something called confusion matrix, very important. তারপর থেকে আবার মেশিন লার্নিং আরো very interesting concepts and classifiers we'll discuss, like decision tree. We'll discuss about that. We'll discuss about overfitting issues, ঠিক আছে? We'll discuss about how to do different training and testing. So what are the different training and testing strategies? There are different things about that, and how do you evaluate যে আপনার machine learning যে classifierটা, if you have created or if you have used, how well it is performing, how do you do performance evaluation of the classifier. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to also discuss different other concepts like hyperparameter tuning, instance-based learning, Bayesian learning, okay, bias variance trade-off key, feature selection কিভাবে করতে হয়, feature engineering key. Okay, we'll also discuss about linear regression, যেটা একটু আগে বলছিলাম, ঠিক আছে? Okay, this idea actually come from statistics. Actually, machine learning অনেক idea actually statistics থেকে আসছে, ঠিক আছে? And we will discuss about something called regularization, logistic regression. We'll discuss other things as well. A lot of machine learning algorithms such as support vector machine, artificial neural network, and the কাজ করে. তারপর we want to discuss about some learning theories as well. Okay, pack learning key, VC dimension key, ensemble learning key, random forest কিভাবে ইউজ করা হয় এগুলা, ঠিক আছে? Dimensionality reduction কিভাবে করি, clustering কিভাবে করি, what's an unsupervised learning, what's a supervised learning, okay, mixture models, expectation maximization, okay, lots of things we will discuss. So right now you don't need to understand what these are, ঠিক আছে? Okay, but as this course is going to progress, you will learn all these concepts. So this is the idea, this is the way I'm actually we are thinking of actually going forward. Okay, so this is how we're going to follow that. So after this one, we're going to go to the next topic and so on. Okay, right. Acha. Okay, so I don't want to discuss all these things right now because you don't need to understand right now. So whenever we want to discuss about any of these concepts, like whenever we want to discuss about logistic regression, I'll discuss the materials about logistic regression in that particular lectures. Okay, so you don't need to worry about it now. Now, let's now discuss the different how you'd be judged. Okay, right? How you'd be assessed. Okay, now there are some assessment, number of assessments that you have to go through. There is an assignment. Okay, you'll be given a small assignment probably. Now that's typically very small assignment, and that will contribute 5% of the marks. Okay, quizzes maybe 10%. Okay, there will be a viva, which is 5%. There will be one midterm, one final, and there will be a project. Okay, all right, now that's very important. Okay, and for me, I guess the most important thing over here is a project. Okay, all of them are important. Okay, but we are going to put special emphasis on this project. Okay, so you're going to work on real data set. Okay, real data set মানে হচ্ছে you're going to go ahead, you're going to collect your own data set. Okay, and not only you collect data set, you learn all different things about data set. You collect a data set, how do you clean the data set, you know, how do you actually do different pre-processing on the data set, how do you apply different machine learning algorithm, how do you forecast, how do you predict things. Okay, so you'll be doing all these sort of things over here. Okay, and not only that, you're going to also write a paper. Okay, a project report. Okay, all right, and we'll discuss about how the templates of project report and stuff like that later on, so don't worry about it right now. Okay, but project we will put an extra emphasis because you will see that when you are because you're expected to actually, you know, collect your own data set, and starting from the collection to দ্য ফাইনাল প্রোডাক্ট পর্যন্ত সবকিছু আপনারা ওই ডেটা সেটের উপর করবেন, ঠিক আছে? যেহেতু দিস ইজ হোয়াট ইউ ক্যান ডু, ইউ আর গোইং টু ডু রিয়েল লাইফ ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশন, okay, on a new day. You're going to look at, you're going to go through all the phases of machine learning, okay, on a completely new data set, okay? And I think that's very exciting, ঠিক আছে? এই প্রজেক্টটা করবার পর যেটা হবে সেটা হচ্ছে all of you will have, you'll see a lot of confidence on how to use machine learning in your day-to-day life activities, okay? So that's what we're going to learn. And because this project is going to be so vital, okay, I have made a policy that even if you pass everything, but if you don't do a project, you fail this course. Project is something that everybody has to go through. It's a group project. We'll discuss more about the projects and stuff like that. No, don't worry about that. We're going to discuss this one, okay? So one of the deliverables of the project is a paper. That's the project report. Now we will discuss about the paper template, কিভাবে লিখতে হবে and stuff like that. We will discuss that one. But one of the crucial things that we will make sure that you write the project in LaTeX, ঠিক আছে? Not in Microsoft Office, but in LaTeX, ঠিক আছে? So how many of you have prior experiences with LaTeX? Can you just raise your hand? Okay, so let me see how many of you have done, how many of you have done. So very few of you, okay? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? No worries. Because if you don't have prior experiences on LaTeX, don't worry. আমরা হয়তো বা একটা ক্লাস বা আমি হয়তো একটা ভিডিও আপনাদের সাথে শেয়ার করে দেব, বা maybe I may actually go through one class just to discuss like how do you write things in LaTeX, okay? The reason why do we want to write in LaTeX is because it gives you a lot of flexibility, ঠিক আছে? It gives you a lot of flexibility. I know all of you are maybe very familiar, acquainted with Microsoft Word, but when you use LaTeX, you'll see academic writings and things like that is much easily you can write things if you're writing in LaTeX, okay? So that's something that I would encourage all of you to do, okay? Right, so does anyone have any question at this stage?
Sir.
Yeah, go on, fine.
Sir, আমাদের মানে প্রজেক্টে গ্রুপ মেম্বার কতজন হবে?
We'll discuss that in a separate class. আজকে আমরা এটা নিয়ে ডিসকাস করি না, কারণ typically maximum 4, ঠিক আছে? Maximum 4, minimum 2, maximum 4, ঠিক আছে? Okay, but আমরা আরো একটু ফার্দার ডিটেইলস ডিসকাস করব এখানে যে কিভাবে you should choose your group partners and stuff like that, ঠিক আছে? Okay, we'll discuss those things, but maximum 4, yes, ঠিক আছে? Is that okay? Yeah.
স্যার, আপনি যে ওন ডাটা বললেন, মানে এটা কি নিজে এই যে ফেফার বা কোনো রিপোর্ট থেকে এই করতে নিজে র ডাটা বলতেছিলাম না, আমি বলতেছিলাম যে ক্যাজুয়াল থেকে কি কালেক্ট করতে পারবো?
No, that's not allowed. You cannot use an existing data set for project purpose, ঠিক আছে? Last semester পর্যন্ত I allowed this one, but there are problems for which I do not want anybody to use the Kaggle dataset from now onward or any existing dataset, ঠিক আছে? এটার কয়েকটা রিজন আছে। এক নম্বর রিজন হচ্ছে আমরা কিছু ডেটাসেট first of all, when you collect your own dataset, you learn a lot of stuff about machine learning. এটা শুধু এটা না যে একটা প্রজেক্ট করার জন্য আমি যে Kaggle থেকে ডেটাসেট ডাউনলোড করে কিছু অ্যাপ্লাই করে ফেললাম তাড়াতাড়ি, হ্যাঁ, বাট একটা dataset collection process থেকে শুরু করে clean up all those things, everything is important, right? So what happens is when you download the dataset from Kaggle, much of this dataset is not the raw dataset, okay? ওরা raw dataset বের করে ওটাকে clean up করে ফেলে, clean up করে process datasetটাকে আপলোড করে. In that case, you never learn what happens in the pre-processing step, right? নাকি না? Clear? So that's one thing that gets missing. That's number one. There are other problems with the Kaggle dataset that we have seen. সেটা হচ্ছে আমরা কিছু কাজ করছিলাম এবং আমরা কাজ করতে গিয়ে দেখি এটা actually happened very recently. I mean, একটা dataset, a couple of dataset we have found যে we get a really good performance, really good performance, and we were almost sure এত ভালো পারফরম্যান্স হওয়ার কথা না, ঠিক আছে? But we got really good performance. Then we looked into the details, ঠিক আছে, কি হচ্ছে, কেন এত ভালো পারফরম্যান্স হচ্ছে, এবং we actually unfortunately found couple of data sets, not, I don't know how many, I'm not saying all Kaggle data sets are like that, There are definitely very good data sets as well, but we have found couple of data sets যেগুলো আসলে that has been engineered, ঠিক আছে? ওকে, এটাকে করা হয়েছে, ভিতরে আবার কারসাজি করা হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে, just to improve the performance and stuff like that. We don't want to do that, ঠিক আছে? ওকে, I am not saying যে তুমি একটা ডেটা সেট কালেক্ট করে তুমি 99% accuracy পেলে, that's good, ঠিক আছে? অনেক সময় অনেক ডেটা সেট পেতে পারো, the data set is not good enough, there's not much enough you can do about it, but that's machine learning. You at least learn the things, ঠিক আছে? So we do not want to experiment on data sets যেগুলা আমরা কনফিডেন্টলি বলতে পারবো না যে এটা কি টেম্পারিং করা হয়েছে কি হয়নি, তাই না? সো সবকিছুর কারণে উই হ্যাভ মুভড অফ ফ্রম দ্যাট আইডিয়া যে কেগল থেকে ডাউনলোড করে আমরা সবসময় এটা মানে ইউজ করবো। উই আর নট গোয়িং টু ডু দ্যাট। ইউ আর গোয়িং টু কালেক্ট ইউর ওন ডেটা সেট অ্যান্ড উইল ডিসকাস অ্যাবাউট দিস থিংস। হাউ ডু ইউ কালেক্ট ইউর ডেটা সেট, ঠিক আছে? কিভাবে কালেক্ট করবে, কিভাবে তুমি মানে মানে একটা ডেটা সেট যখন কালেক্ট করবে, হোয়াট আর দ্য থিংস ইউ শুড কালেক্ট, হোয়াট আর দ্য থিংস দ্যাট ইউ শুড হ্যাভ ইন ইউর মাইন্ড, all these things we will discuss, ঠিক আছে? ওকে, বাট আমার কাছে মনে হয় collecting a data set is a very important step in machine learning, ঠিক আছে? তুমি যদি কেগল থেকে বা অন্য কোনো সোর্স থেকে ডাউনলোড করো, you are just simply going to avoid that step, and that's a very vital step as well. I hope that answers the question, right, Kashim?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so we will not allow anybody to collect data to just download an existing data set. Okay. Now, there are certain course policies we have. Okay, so let's go through this one. Number one, in no way there will be any makeup of final exam. Kono final exam e kono makeup take up ei shob kono kichu allow kora hobe na, ঠিক আছে? Okay. In case of absolute emergency, if a student misses a midterm exam or something, then a proper application backed up by the supporting documents needs to be provided. And then if I agree, okay, একটা মেকআপ এক্সাম হয়তো বা নেওয়া যেতে পারে মিড টার্মের জন্য, কিন্তু even if it's a makeup, there would be a 20% penalty for that, ঠিক আছে? So basic idea হচ্ছে do not do not miss exams, ঠিক আছে, unless it is absolutely necessary for certain things. Do not miss any exam, ঠিক আছে? Okay, right? Because this will not help you in any way. Now, failure to submit a project will result in F grade. As I was saying, যে অন্যান্য সবকিছুতে ভালো, যে প্রজেক্ট না করলে প্রজেক্টে 0 পেলেও ধরেন আপনি পাস করে যান, but still you'll fail, ঠিক আছে? Project is important, ঠিক আছে? Because after project করবার পর you'll see that you'll have a lot of confidence, okay, in using machine learning in unfamiliar situations. So that's a very, very important point, ঠিক আছে? Okay. Now, lack of knowledge of academic honesty policy is not a reasonable explanation for a violation, ঠিক আছে? So it's very important that you're very, very honest of what you're doing, ঠিক আছে? Okay, all right, because that's if you violate that, that's will be dealt very, very strictly, ঠিক আছে? Don't do that, ঠিক আছে? If you don't understand the concept or things like that, I mean, I'm sure we'll be able to help you out with that, but don't take any dishonest means, ঠিক আছে? Okay, so that's basically the course outcome for a course outline for CSE 445. Does anybody have any questions so far? Are okay কোনো questions আছে? Hello?
No,
Does
sir, I
anybody
guess.
have questions? No? Yeah, everything's fine? Okay, great. Excellent. So that is fine. So we understand what is the course objective. Our course outline. It is clear. Okay.
স্যার আমাদের কুইজ কয়টা হবে?
Sorry?
কুইজ কয়টা হবে আর কয়টা কাউন্ট হবে স্যার?
Quiz 3 to 4 probably. Okay. Okay. Now কুইজে যেটা হবে সেটা মেবি আমি একটা কুইজ হয়তো বা ড্রপ করবো আপনার, যে ফাইনালি when I take the quizzes একটা কুইজ হয়তো আমি ড্রপ করবো, ঠিক আছে? ওকে, আচ্ছা। Now what I'm going to do now is we have got some times now to, let me just explain you what really is machine learning, why what is the thing that we do in machine learning, ঠিক আছে? Next class we will discuss it more formally, but আজকে একটা just idea নেওয়ার জন্য যে machine learning টা কেন important, ঠিক আছে? We will discuss this one right now, ঠিক আছে? So let's start. Okay, all right. So if anyone has any problem, let me know then and then, but let me start. Okay. All right. So where we can start. Okay. Let me open up Paint. Okay. Here we are. Now, let's look at what happens in traditional programming. Take a chance. Traditional programming. Okay. Now, what does traditional programming mean? I'll write it down here. Traditional way of doing programming. ঠিক আছে? Okay. Now, programming যখন করেছেন, so far you have done programming in a number of courses like CSE 115, CSE 215, right? CSE 225. Okay, so you've done lots of programmings there. So programming এ কি হয়? Any idea? Programming এ what you have is an algorithm, right? নাকি না? So you develop an algorithm. Am I right? নাকি না? Yes?
Yes, sir.
So algorithm contains what? An algorithm contains a set of instructions. Am I right, Nakina? Yes. So it contains a set of instructions that will be followed sequentially. Am I correct? Yes. Okay. So you have some set of instructions. Step 1, you do that. Step 2, you do this. Step 3, you do this, and so on. Right? You have got a set of instructions, and you follow them. And after you follow them, you actually get the output. Right? So that's what you're interested in. Of course, sometimes some algorithms, well, in many times, algorithms also have input sequences as well, right? Input, one or multiple input, okay? And follows set of algorithms to produce one or more outputs. Am I clear or not? Is that idea okay? Do we all agree with that? Okay, now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So that's what really happens in programming so far. So all sorts of algorithms and programming, this is basically the very idea that we have learned, okay? Of course, depending on the problem that we have, okay, our algorithm will be different, sure, because algorithms are designed to solve the problem that we have, right? Again. But in machine learning, we are not going to use this very idea of solving a problem, okay? So this very idea of solving the problem doesn't work in machine learning. So in machine learning, the way we're going to solve this actually shifts a little bit. So let me show you what happens in machine learning, okay? Right. So machine learning. So let's see what happens in machine learning. Now, of course, do understand whether you use the traditional programming technique or machine learning techniques, or doesn't matter, you start with the problem, right? You have a problem and you want to solve the problem. In order to solve the problem, you have an algorithm or things like that. Same thing in machine learning. You want to solve a particular problem, okay? But in machine learning, this traditional way of solving the problem does not work, okay? And let me explain you why it does not work, okay? So I think a very good idea would be to give you an example to show you why it doesn't work in this particular way, okay? So let's go over here, okay? So we're going to go, you can see that I'm looking at some PowerPoint presentation. So this is not slide number 1. So don't worry about it. I'm going to discuss this presentation in full details later on, okay? So I'm going to give you a thought experiment. So let's start with the thought experiment, okay? So imagine, let's just imagine that you have a physical machine, okay? So you have a machine, okay? And the machine can do a couple of things. Number 1, it can take a side view picture of an object that is placed on it. A machine you can place an object. And now if you place an object, the machine can take a side view picture of that particular object. That's what it can do. It can also measure the weight of the object. Is it clear? So understand that, just imagine that we build a machine, okay, all right, and a machine object, I can place an object on this machine and it can do a couple of things. Number 1, it can take a side view picture of this particular object that we have placed on the machine. And number 2, it can also measure what's the weight of that particular object that we have placed on the machine. Is that okay, Nakina? Clear? Yes? Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now let us say I am giving you I'm giving a problem to solve, okay? And this is what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you Now, this is your objective now. To write a program. So I'm asking you, why don't you write a program? Now, don't worry about machine learning. Machine learning, it's a machine learning class, that it's a machine learning. The software to emun kono kotha na. I don't want you to solve it using machine learning. So don't worry about machine learning. I just want to see how you solve the problem. So machine learning, but machine learning সম্পর্কে আমি এখন বলছি না, okay? Now, what is your objective? Your objective is to write a program. So you're asked to write a program. এবং প্রোগ্রামটা কি করবে? It will identify the object that we placed on this particular machine, okay? এবং এই সামনে আপনার জন্য একটু সোজা করে দিই। I'm not going to place any object. I'm going to place either an apple or an orange on this particular object. So I'm going to place either an apple or an orange on this particular object. ঠিক আছে? আচ্ছা, এই মেশিন on this machine. So এই মেশিনের উপর একটা apple রাখবো বা একটা orange রাখবো. So all it does is it's going to take two things. It's going to take a side view picture, okay, of the object. So it's going to take the image of this object, and it's going to measure the weight of the object. That's what it's going to do. That's all. That's the only two inputs that you have. So if you think carefully, we don't know that what's the algorithm that you're going to write, what's the program you're going to write. So what's the input sequence that you have? Input sequence you have is an image of the object, right? Yes. And the other input that you have is what? The weight of the object. Am I correct, Nakina? Yes. These are the two things that you measure. Yes. Right?
Yes, sir.
And the object is you're gonna, figure out, is it an apple or is it an orange? Is this an apple that you have placed or is it an orange that we have placed? That's the only thing that it's going to do. So you're going to write a program that's going to do this one. Okay. So my question is, don't worry about machine learning. I don't want you to think about machine learning. Okay. Like, how would you do that? So with all the knowledges that you have gathered so far, any idea? So you don't have to write a program per se, but can you tell me what would be your strategy? কি করতে পারেন?
প্রথমে যে মানে ফিচারটা আমি দেখব, ফিচার দেখে আইডেন্টিফাই।
কি ফিচার? What do you mean by feature? কোন ফিচার?
স্যার কালার একটা ফিচার হতে পারে।
জি স্যার।
So you're going to look at the color and you're going to judge using the color, right? Nakina. Yes. So what would be your algorithm? Color ki hole ki hobe?
Sir, if red then apple, and if orange color then it's orange.
Okay. All right. So that's an algorithm. Okay. Any other idea right now?
Sir, এটা shape একটা ইয়ে হতে পারে।
Shape. Okay. Maybe shape. Look at the shape of that particular object. Okay. Fine. Shape. What is the difference between the two shapes? I have to think a little bit more carefully. So shape use করে আপনি you can classify করবেন whether it's an apple or an orange, right? So can you tell me what's the difference between the shapes?
এটা সম্পূর্ণ অরেঞ্জটা তো সম্পূর্ণ গোল ভিতর দিকে।
But bear in mind, আমি বলেছি you're going to take the picture, the side view picture. You're not going to take the entire picture. Maybe the side view picture, right? Okay. So shape কিভাবে আপনি জাজ করবেন? Okay. All right. ঠিক আছে. So these are things to think about. Okay. Any other strategies anybody has in mind?
স্যার ওয়েট তো আপনি দেখছেন, ইনপুট ওয়েটটা একটা, হ্যাঁ ওয়েটটাও একটা ইয়ে হতে পারে।
So কোনটার ওয়েট বেশি, অ্যাপল না অরেঞ্জ?
স্যার অ্যাপল I guess.
You guess apple. Okay. আচ্ছা. Okay. Fine. Okay. Any other?
এই ইয়াতে কি শুধু এই দুইটা ইনপুটে থাকবে? এই দুইটা থেকে আমাকে যে একটা আইডেন্টিফাই করতে হবে?
Yes, sir. That's what is the task.
Yes.
তো বলা আছে। ঠিক আছে? Okay. Any other approaches anybody else would do? Is that okay? Yeah. So you have come up with some ideas. Act number হচ্ছে you're gonna judge it using color. Okay, so you're gonna use color as a means to judge whether it's an apple or an orange. Some of you have said maybe shape. Okay, you're gonna use shape, although it's not clear how you're gonna use the shape. Someone said weight maybe. Okay, and thinks apple has more weight than orange. I don't know how, but well, if you think so, fine, fair enough. Any other way I can approach this one?
Yes, sir.
Anybody?
The apple has a leaf with it. We can.
Apple has?
a leaf visit, স্যার।
বুঝি না
স্যার অ্যাপেলের সাথে একটা পাতা আছে স্যার, এটা দিয়ে
স্যার
ডিফারেন্সিয়েট করতে
এটা
পারবো।
এই ছবিতে পাতা আছে, প্রত্যেকটা অ্যাপেলে কি পাতা থাকে? এটা একটা কোনো কথা হলো? ঠিক আছে, ইউ ক্যান
Sir, can I consider the taste of the taste? Consider
গো অ্যাহেড, বলেন।
বলতেছি যে দুইটা ফলের যে ডিফারেন্স টেস্টটা ওইটা কি আমি কনসিডার আনতে পারি টেস্ট?
আবার বলো।
স্যার
স্যার
ফলের যে
সেইং অ্যাবাউট টেস্ট, মানে ফলের যে স্বাদটা দুটো তো আলাদা, তো ওটার কথা।
স্বাদ আপনি কেমনে নেবেন? আপনাকে নিতে বলছি কি? আমি বলছি আপনি নিতে পারবেন জাস্ট দ্য সাইড ভিউ পিকচার অ্যান্ড দ্য ওয়েট। আপনাকে কি টেস্ট মেজার করতে বলছি? So if you cannot measure the taste, you cannot use it to do that. So you do not know what the taste is, right? You did not take taste as an input, right? নাকি না? ঠিক আছে?
স্যার আমরা কি দুটো অবজেক্টের সারফেসের টেক্সচারটা নিতে পারি কনসিডারেশন?
Okay, so texture is another idea that you can think of. Maybe we can use this one to judge whether it's an apple or an orange, right? নাকি না? Yes? ঠিক আছে? Okay. Are we good enough নাকি না so far? নাকি any more ideas? Any more ideas? No? Okay. হ্যাঁ, আর কারো কোনো আইডিয়া আছে? বলেন।
স্যার ম্যাক্সিমাম অ্যাপেলের একটা করে বোটা থাকে, অরেঞ্জেরটা থাকে না, সো এটা কি কাউন্ট করা যেতে পারে?
You're taking a side view picture.
ও সরি।
Okay.
সারফেস তো ডিফারেন্স না, সারফেস
Surface তো বলেছে, এখানে texture use করে।
আচ্ছা
ঠিক আছে, shape ও বলেছে, ঠিক আছে। These two has to do with the surface, right? নাকি না? Yeah. এই দুটা হচ্ছে সারফেস কে মেজার করে, ঠিক আছে। সারফেসের ডিফারেন্ট প্রপার্টি কে মেজার করে। ওকে, আচ্ছা। সো সারফেসের কথা বলা হয়েছে, কালার বলা হয়েছে, ওয়েট বলা হচ্ছে। You know, I can tell you that it can happen that none of this would work really. All these ideas that I have come up with, it can just happen that none of them would work very well. ঠিক আছে? In real life, it is most likely that none of them would work. Okay, and now why would that be this case? কেন আমি তাহলে কালার ইউজ করে করতে পারবো না? আমি কেন টেক্সচার ইউজ করে করতে পারছি না? ওয়েট কেন ইউজ করে করতে পারছি না? রাইট? That sounds strange, right? Let me show you why that is so. So these are the things that I thought you would think about. The features you can measure are color and weight. Okay, so that's the question I asked you, that which feature do you think would be excellent to classify between the two fruits? Okay, to classify the two fruits, and you come up with certain features list, right? So some set of features you've come up with, and these are your features that you've come up with, right? Color, shape, weight, texture, এগুলা measure করে করে আমরা কোনোভাবে classify করব whether it's an apple or orange. Now it turns out that they may not work. And why would it not work? Here's an example. Real world is different. Real life data is different. So think about this. This is an apple. That's also an apple. আমি কখনো বলিনি the appleটা half eaten না থাকতে পারে, but it is also an apple. ঠিক আছে? Now if we take a bit of if we take a piece of this apple, ঠিক আছে? All right, haven't we changed the surface of this one? It's surface এখন different হয়ে গেল না এটা থেকে, right? Yes or no? Okay,
Yes, sir.
and question হচ্ছে, আমি যদি এই অ্যাপেলটা দেই, আপনার ধরেন আপনার প্রোগ্রাম হ্যাজ actually figured this out, but অ্যাপেলটাকে যদি আমি একটু if I bite slightly, ঠিক আছে, if I take a piece of it out of it, and if I give the same apple, ঠিক আছে, will it be able to still detect that it's an apple? Maybe not. ঠিক আছে, right? আচ্ছা, someone says color. What about this apple? Is this apple red? No. So apples are not always red. Okay, someone says weight. Look at this. Do these apples have the same weight?
No, sir.
Okay, someone says orange is orange in color. Is this orange in color?
No, sir.
No. So what about I give this orange? It will not work. Your algorithm will simply not work. Am I clear, Nakina? Is that okay? So all these things that you have come up with, I would use the color to judge whether it's an apple or an orange. I would look at the texture to see that. I would use the weight to see that. Now you see that all these things are vulnerable depending on what kind of apple or orange you place it on the machine. Is that right, Nakina? Clear? So looking at from here, you would now see that whether you judge using the color, using the shape, using the weight, using the texture, all of them can is subjected to fail. Is that right, Nakina? And your algorithm will not work for all apples and oranges. Is that right? বুঝতে পারছি নাকি না? Yes? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So that's where the problem is now. Now, how do you solve this problem? Any idea how do you solve this problem?
স্যার একটা যদি
Yeah.
আমি
So the
সাপোজ
problem, the real problem is we have lots of variation. আমাদের real life data, সবকটা apple does not look exactly the same. There is variation, and that's where the problem is. Okay, right, Nakina? I'll give a similar analogy. For example, as simple as that, if I give you a picture of a cat, okay, and if I say, can you detect a cat in the picture, right? Okay, Facebook আছে না ছবি দেখলে it can detect your face, okay, কোন একটা ফেসের উপর যদি hover করো, it detects that face, right? Nakina? Yes. Okay, so similarly, let's say I want to detect a cat. Now there's a lot of variations in cats as well. This cat is not the same as this cat. This is a different type of cat. Look at this cat. It is সামনে একটা আলাদা একটা object আছে. Now will that be a problem to recognize this cat? Okay. Now this has a different shape. Okay, I can see its tail as well. Okay. Now this has different shape. Background আবার white. এটার background আবার একটা ঘর আছে দেখছি, right? এটা একটা cat, but someone is someone's hand is there as well. ঠিক আছে? Will your algorithm still be able to detect this as a cat? What about this cat? Okay, what about this one? Look at this one. Okay, you see, that's the real problem. In real life situation, you do not have the picture, যেটা একই ধরনের প্রত্যেকটা ক্যাট একই ধরনের দেখতে না, প্রত্যেকটা ক্যাট এর ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডটা একই ধরনের না, প্রত্যেকটা ক্যাট তোমার জন্য একইভাবে পোস্ট করবে না. There will be different. Your human eye can look at this one and can very easily detect that's a cat. Okay, can look at this one and can say it's a cat. Okay, but here's the question: can you write an algorithm that would still be able to handle all these different kinds of variations that we have? Yeah, that's the real challenge with the real data. Is that clear, Nakina? বুঝা গেছে? Are we good? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. So real world data, whenever we discuss, we take any real world data, we find this, it can be noisy. Okay, it can be noisy. There can be problem with illumination. একটা ছবি হয়তো বা ইয়া করা হচ্ছে with poor light settings, একটাতে ভালো light settings, একটা brighter, একটা হচ্ছে dimmer, ঠিক আছে? There could be occlusion. Occlusion means there's something in front of it which is actually somehow hindering it, somehow hindering you from looking the entire thing. Maybe this is occluded by this cloth over here, ঠিক আছে? Okay, right? Occlusion. It depends on the camera angle, ঠিক আছে? ক্যামেরাটা কোন দিকে ছিল, ঠিক আছে? Right? So the problem with the real world data is there exists a wide range of variation. And this wide range of variation can be in terms of many things. It can be in terms of the color, as we have seen in case of apple and orange. Not all apples are red. Not all oranges are orange in color, right? They can be different in terms of textures, weight, and so many different things. Okay. And yet, if we want to actually build an application that would be able to do, able to classify apples from the oranges or recognize the cat face, okay, you cannot just write a simple program and say, well, this logic, this program that I have is written will work for all the cat images. It will work for all the apples or all the oranges. It will simply not work, right? Because your real data has variations, okay? And so you need to come up with a program. You need to come up with a technique that would be able to, tackle all these wide range of variations. Is this clear, Nakina? Yes? Did you understand this? Now that's the challenge in machine learning. Now, এটা কি সবার ক্লিয়ার? আমাদের কি এই জিনিসটা ক্লিয়ার হয়েছে যে কেন if I just come up with a particular program, this would simply not work? Yes? It may work for one data, but it may not work for another data. It's just simply because it is maybe it's that particular apple is not red in color. So your that logic will just simply fail, right? নাকি না? বুঝতে পারছি আমরা নাকি না সমস্যাটা বুঝতে পেরেছি যে what
Yes,
really is
sir.
the problem? Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
turns out I came up with a very simple problem. Because it turned out it's a very simple problem, and now you can see that that's a very, very difficult problem to solve. How do you solve this problem? Okay. Now, in order to solve this problem, because your program has to handle all these wide range of variations, okay? In order to solve this problem, we come up with a different technique, okay? So that's why we write over here. It is that because we have wide range of variation, it is impossible for you to write a rule-based programming. After rule-based programming, if this and this, then it's apple. If that and that, then it's an orange. ঠিক আছে? If else, that's a rule-based programming. না এরকম rule-based programming কি লেখা সম্ভব? এটা সম্ভব না. Is that clear নাকি না? Because we have wide range of variations. Now you can say, আচ্ছা আমরা একটা কাজ করতে পারি না, 10টা অ্যাপল দিলাম, 10টা অরেঞ্জ দিলাম, তাদের ডিফারেন্ট ভেরিয়েশনস গুলো নিয়ে প্রত্যেকটা and বা or দিয়ে করলাম. And that might be true for these 10 apples and oranges, but I can bring, I don't know, let's say for example, আমি অন্য দেশে থেকে কোনো apples and oranges নিয়ে আসি, and that could have a different form, ঠিক আছে, and it would simply fail. Is that right? নাকি না? Okay. So that's why this traditional programming approach সেটা যেখানে আমরা set of instructions লিখছি, step 1 এটা করব, step 2 তে এটা করব, step 3 তে এটা করব, and so on, that will not probably work. I hope this is clear. Is that right নাকি না? Yeah, ঠিক আছে, বুঝতে পারছি?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we need is we need a shift in the way we are thinking. So we need a shift in the paradigm in order to solve this problem, because we want to actually solve the problem, and we want to solve the problem in such a way so that your program is able to tackle all these different variations. Okay, in order to solve this, we need a different approach. We need a shift in the paradigm. And that's what we're going to do in this course called machine learning. So machine learning is a course where we will learn these new techniques, a new approach of solving these sort of problems. Okay, so we are no longer going to write this rule-based programming that you have written so far. Okay, we now will have data-driven computing. So it's no longer going to be rule-based computing. It's going to be rule-based programming. It's going to be data-driven computing. Okay, and we'll discuss how do you do that. Okay, all right. So আমাদের approachটা যেটা হচ্ছে এখন, what we're gonna do is we are not going to write a rule-based programming. এটা actually সম্ভব না. এই যে একটু আগে আমি যে এখানে লিখছিলাম, traditional programming, these are rule-based, right? Set of instructions লিখলাম, and you just follow the set of instructions. Okay, এগুলা rules গুলোতে যদি follow করে, if this and this, output is this, that. Now these are rule-based programming, right? And this will not work in machine learning, right? Okay, because in real data we will have wide range of variation, so that technique will not work for us. Okay, so what we're gonna do? So we're gonna do what we call data-driven computing. So what happens in data-driven computing? We use data to train a machine to do a number of things. Okay, so what we're gonna do? Let's say think about apples and oranges, or let's think about cat. Okay, do the example. Let's say apples and oranges. Okay, because they have variations, so we're gonna download, let's say, I don't know, million apples and millions oranges. So we have got millions apples and millions oranges. We're gonna take different images maybe, okay, or maybe we have different, we just take the millions of apples and millions of oranges samples নিলাম, ঠিক আছে, নেওয়ার পর কি করব, we gonna let's say if we are just taking the image থেকে যদি করি, so we have a million apple and we have a million orange. So we have the images of a million apple and a million orange, and we somehow also know what is the weight of each of these apples and oranges, ঠিক আছে. So what we're gonna then do is we have collected the data. So this is the data set, okay, it's containing millions of apples and millions of oranges. So you have the data set. So we're gonna apply machine learning algorithms on this data set. So we're gonna apply the machine learning algorithms on this data set, okay? And we're gonna learn different machine learning algorithms in this course. And what this will do, when you apply this machine learning algorithm on this data set, you will actually be able to create what we call a model. So you'll create a model, you'll create some sort of, you know, techniques of actually selecting, deciding whether it's an apple or an orange. Now, if you give a new data, okay, on this model, okay, and this model will then predict whether this is an apple or this is an orange. That's what's going to happen. Similarly, for cat face. So if you want to detect whether there is a cat face in an image or not, let's say you take a million cat faces and a million images without cat faces, and you use that data, okay, and you apply the different machine learning algorithms. You can create your own machine learning algorithms, okay, and you can apply this on the data set. And when you apply the data set, what it does is it uses the data set to learn the features. So you are not giving the features yourself. You are not giving the rules yourself. The color data for the apple. So it's going to learn from the data. Okay, this is the learning process. It's going to learn from the data and create a model. And then you're going to test how well this model works by giving a new data. New data কারণ তুমি already existing data যেটা use করেছো সেটা তো সে শিখছে, ঠিক আছে? So you give a new data and then evaluate how well it has been able to, you know, classify it or detect, or has it been able to detect whether this image has a cat face or it does not have a cat face, things like that. Is it clear, Nakina? Yes, is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now this approach or this learning technique is sometimes called inductive learning. Okay, and we will talk about this thing, so don't worry about this one. Inductive learning, okay? Inductive learning মানে হচ্ছে, you know, you learn from the data, okay? You learn while you do things, ঠিক আছে? Okay, করতে করতে শেখা, heuristic learning, okay? You learn from the data, okay? So that's inductive learning. Is that okay? Okay, now, so we do not ourselves give any algorithm. So we do not write a program per se saying that this is the program to detect an apple or an orange. It will learn from the data. It will learn the rules from the data. এখানে কি হচ্ছে traditional programming? You give the rules, but here you don't give the rules. It learns the rules from the data. Okay, that's the technique. And why we have to do that? Because data has variations. Okay, and so we want to take that into consideration. So we don't want to give any such rules ourselves, but we want to actually learn from the data those set of rules that can be used to detect whether it's an apple or an orange, or whether there is a cat face in the image or something else. Is that okay? Did you all understand this one? So I hope you understand a little bit how machine learning is different from traditional programming, right, Nakina? Yes?
Yes, sir.
ঠিক আছে, বুঝতে পারছি সবাই নাকি না? Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that's something we're gonna learn in this course a lot, okay? আচ্ছা, আমি আর বেশি ইয়েতে যাই না. We don't go into these details of how you're gonna do, how you're gonna write different things and do different things. Okay, we're gonna look at these things in the other classes as well. ঠিক আছে, পরে আরো carefully we'll understand different things that we can do with machine learning and stuff like that. We will also look at certain problems with machine learning. হ্যাঁ, অনেকে আছে কি, আমি দেখেছি অনেক কনফারেন্স পেপারে অনেকে কাজ করে যেখানে পায় ডেটা মেশিন লার্নিং অ্যাপ্লাই করে দেয়. Sometimes machine learning can create problems as well, okay? And we'll discuss about these ideas as well. ঠিক আছে, but we'll look at those things later on. So let's not worry about this one, okay? Acha. Now, because it's the first class, I just wanted to give you a little idea about what machine learning is and what's going to happen. So I hope now you know a little bit about how machine learning is different from traditional programming. Okay, acha. এখন আমি last of all, I'm going to share this image that you have. I hope you can see this image. Can you? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
দেখতে পারছো? Okay. Now, first of all, এখানে একটা ইয়ে করে দিই. This is an image that I did not draw. ঠিক আছে? I think it's a data 360 YP. Somebody has this YouTube channel called data 360 YP. আমি ওখানে দেখলাম যে it's this very nice actually diagram of showing that কোনটার পর কি করা উচিত and all this stuff. Okay? So I taken from there. ঠিক আছে? But this is the approach that we will be following in our course. Okay, so I'm going to just tell you what's going to happen in machine learning task. Okay, so যে কোনো একটা machine learning task করতে চান, ঠিক আছে, বা একটা project করতে চান, what really happens there? The very first thing that you do, okay, is you want to understand what's the problem that you're trying to solve. This is the problem formulation phase. What is it that you want to solve? That's a very important question. আমি এটা সলভ করতে চাই, এটা আমি নিয়ে কাজ করতে চাই, এটা আমি বের করতে চাই, ঠিক আছে? You need to identify the problem that you want to solve. Okay, so the very few questions that you might ask yourself is, what is the thing that you want to solve? What is the thing that you would like to predict, and things like that. Okay, now depending on what you want to solve, what you want to predict, you gather a data. You gather a data set, you collect a data set. Okay, so the second step, once you have identified, now this is what I want to do, maybe অনেক কিছু হতে পারে, maybe I want to detect whether somebody has cancer or not, from data. Okay, maybe I want to detect কেউ একজন হাতের লেখায় লিখলো ক, এই কটা যে ক, I want to just detect that letter. Okay, maybe. So first step is understand the problem. Okay, identify the problem that you're trying to solve. Then, depending on what you want to solve, the second step that we're going to go for is we're going to gather raw data. Okay. Now, অনেক ভাবে data gather করা যায়. Maybe depending on the problem, maybe you need to do a survey. Okay, maybe মানে অনেক ধরনের data অনেক জায়গায় আছে. You may need to actually, somehow করতে হবে তোমাকে, কি বলে, fuse করতে হবে, merge করতে হবে, অনেক কিছু করতে হতে পারে. ঠিক আছে? So you collect some data. So that's the second step. Now, once you've collected the data, so once you have done gathering the data set, okay, you don't apply machine learning then. You go through a very important process, step called the pre-processing step, data pre-processing. Now, what is data pre-processing? তুমি যে ডেটাটা কালেক্ট করেছো, যে র ডেটাটা কালেক্ট করেছো, এই র ডেটার মধ্যে অনেক প্রবলেম থাকতে পারে। কিরকম প্রবলেম থাকতে পারে? Let's say, for example, you've taken some surveys of certain things. So you've got a very nice data. Now you may have lots of issues with the data. Maybe there are some missing entries. কিছু entries থাকতে পারে that are missing. Now, if there are missing entries, you need to identify what you're going to do with the missing entries. Okay, all right. What about there are let's say, what about there are wrong values given, and these are wrong values. What are you going to do with the wrong values? So you need to process that. Tomar raw data jeta ache seta je all clean and nice and cute, tar kintu na. So you have to handle that. So you must do that before you start your machine learning approach, right? You may need to clean the data, okay, depending on the condition of your data set. You may need to aggregate data sets. So you may have data in different places, different tables. You may need to aggregate them. Okay, bring all the data sets together. Okay, all right. Join যদি শিখে থাকেন database, you know what I mean. Okay, you may need to scale things. You may need to normalize things. You may need to convert categorical data into numeric data. Okay, you may need to do some feature selection. যে আমি তো অনেক কিছু মেজার করছি, অনেক ফিচার্স মেজার করছি, বাট কোন ফিচারগুলো আসলেই ভালো, কোন ফিচার দিয়ে আসলেই আমি predict করতে পারি better, right? সব ফিচার দিয়ে কি predict করা যেতে পারে? Maybe not. Okay, maybe some features are more promising than other features. How do you detect that? How do you figure out that these features are better than other features? That's why I asked you, did you guys do correlation before? Because that's where you'll see we will be using statistical concepts such as correlations, okay, techniques. Okay, we're going to do that. We might need to do feature engineering. So what happens is, once you collect the raw data, okay, then you need to actually pre-process the raw data. Okay, all right. Raw data can, depending on the condition of the raw data, you're going to pre-process it. So now you have the pre-processed data. Once you have the pre-processed data, now it is ready, okay, to be used by your machine learning algorithms. Is that understandable? Now clear? এখন প্রত্যেকটা raw data কি একই problem থাকতে পারে? No, depending on what kind of raw data do you have, depending on your raw data, we could have different problems, and we need to fix that up. Okay, and that's is what we're gonna do right after collecting the raw data. This is the reason I was saying that, you know, Kaggle থেকে data download করে আপনি অনেক কিছু করতে পারেন, because but most of the cases যেটা হয়তো বা হবে যে Kaggle এর ডেটাটা যে অনেক সময় হয় কি যেটা যে Kaggle এ যে ডেটা আপলোড করা হয় সেটা absolute raw data না, maybe they have done some pre-processing, and so you never actually learn how to do pre-processing, and this is a big step. Okay, there's a lot of things to learn. Okay, and so we will be discussing how to do those sort of things. Sometimes there are some data we'll do further pre-processing as well. Of course we'll do that. Now once we have done that, now মনে আছে আমরা মেশিন লার্নিং এ কি করি, আমরা ডেটা কালেক্ট করি, ডেটা কালেক্ট করার পর কি করি আমরা, we apply the machine learning algorithm on the data, right নাকি না? Yes. Now when we apply the machine learning algorithm on the data, how do you evaluate, how do you assess the performance কেমন হচ্ছে, এটা কিভাবে করি? Do we use the same image or same data that we have used to train, or do we use a new data to train? New data, right? Same data আমরা use করতে চাই না. So once you've collected the data, maybe the next step would be to split the raw data. You split the raw data into maybe 2 parts, 3 parts, depending. Different strategies. We want to talk about those things later on. But maybe training set, test set. There's also something called validation set. But let's say training set and test set. Training set data গুলোকে দিয়ে আমি train করলাম, আর test set data দিয়ে আমি evaluate করলাম. So test set যে data থাকবে সেটা দিয়ে আমি train করব না. So this is kept aside. So I'll use the data set from the training part to actually, you know, train it, and then I will evaluate how well it can predict using the test set data set. Now that's one strategy, but you will learn that there are many other techniques that we use. There's something called K4 cross validation techniques and things like that. So that's a different thing. So main জিনিসটা হচ্ছে আমরা problem formulate করব, raw data collect করব, pre-processing করব, তারপরে machine learning এর কাজ শুরু হবে এই স্টেপে। Is that understandable নাকি না? Yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes,
And
sir.
in this course, I'm going to show you all these steps. What are you going to do? What are you going to consider in each of these steps? That's what we're going to discuss in this course. Okay? Right. So does anyone have any questions at this stage? Right? I hope you get the point, right? At a machine learning process.
স্যার
Yes.
এই যে মডেল ইভালুয়েশন যেটা, এখানে কি আমার ডাটাটা যত বেশি হবে এটা কি ইভালুয়েশনটা তত বেশি হবে নাকি?
ডেটা যত বেশি হবে তত কি আবার বলো,
মানে ইভালুয়েশনের ইয়াটা কি অ্যাকুরেসিটা কি বেশি হবে নাকি?
আচ্ছা, সো এটা ডিপেন্ড করে লট অফ থিংস, ঠিক আছে? Your model performance depends on two things definitely. Number one, of course, it depends on the data set. ঠিক আছে? It also depends on the quality of the data. ঠিক আছে? তুমি যে ডেটাটা কালেক্ট করছো এই ডেটাটা যদি অনেক এরর্স থাকে, অনেক নয়েজি থাকে, না তাহলে wouldn't its performance be affected by that as well? It will be. So the performance depends on two main things. It depends on the volume of data, কত বড় তোমার ডেটাটা, এটা of course is an important thing. It also depends on the quality of the data. তোমার ডেটাটা কতটা রিলায়েবল, কতটা মানে কতটা ভ্যালিড এটার উপর। দিস ইজ হোয়াট আই হ্যাভ সেড, যে অনেক সময় আমি বলেছিলাম না কেগলে আমি কিছু ডেটা সেট নিয়ে কাজ করছিলাম, সাম অফ মাই স্টুডেন্টস আর স্টিল ওয়ার্কিং, এন্ড তারা এত ভালো পারফরমেন্স পেয়েছে যে ইট আউট পারফর্মস এভরি পারফরমেন্স। ঠিক আছে, তখন আমাদের একটু সন্দেহ হওয়া শুরু হলো এত ভালো পারফরমেন্স কেন। ঠিক আছে, এন্ড দেন উই ফিগার আউট যে যারা এই ডেটাটা কালেক্ট করছে দে হ্যাভ ডান সাম ট্যাম্পারিং দেয়ার, ইচ্ছে করে কিছু মানে ম্যানুয়াল ট্যাম্পারিং করে ডেটা সেটের কোয়ালিটি তারা ভালো বানাইছে, which is not really the case. বুঝতে পারছো আমার কথা? ওকে, নট ইন আ ভেরি মানে এথিক্যাল ওয়েতে করা হয়েছে, ভেরি আনএথিক্যালি কাজটা করা হয়েছে, রাইট নাকি না? ওকে, সো দ্যাটস হ্যাজ বিন ডান সো দ্যাট ইউজ করলে দেখা যাবে অনেক ভালো পারফরমেন্স মেজার করা যাচ্ছে। বাট
স্যার বেশি ভালো পারফরমেন্সে কি আপনার সন্দেহ হয়ে যায়?
স্যার মানে আমার জিনিসটা হচ্ছে ইউ নিড টু বি অনেস্ট। ঠিক আছে? ওকে, রাইট, ওকে। এই কোর্সটা করার পর you'll have enough মানে knowledge to, you know, if you want to pursue your career in data science, ঠিক আছে, you'll have enough knowledge for that, ঠিক আছে? And one of the very important things is you need honesty, ঠিক আছে? তুমি ডেটা ট্যাম্পারিং করতে পারো, ডেটা ট্যাম্পারিং করে খুব ভালো ভালো পারফরমেন্স করতে পারবে, ঠিক আছে? করলা, কিন্তু সমস্যাটা হবে কি, তোমার যে মডেলটা সে যদি অন্য একজন যদি তার ডেটার উপর অ্যাপ্লাই করে, উইল ইট দেন পারফর্ম ওয়েল? ইট উইল নট পারফর্ম ওয়েল, ঠিক আছে? ওকে, বুঝতে পারছো? তখনই বোঝা যাবে যে সাম ওভারফিটিং হ্যাজ বিন ডান, ঠিক আছে, ওভারফিটিং হয়েছে কোনোভাবে, এন্ড দ্যাটস নট এ গুড থিং টু ডু, ঠিক আছে? ওকে, আমি কখনো বলি না যে ইউ নো তোমার প্রজেক্টের মার্ক ইজ প্রপোর্শনাল টু ইউর অ্যাকিউরেসি, আই নেভার সেড দ্যাট, ঠিক আছে? These are the steps where we want to see how honestly you have looked into the data set, you've dealt with the issue. That is what is important. ঠিক আছে? Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Don't do that. ঠিক আছে? Don't do that. Never. Okay. All right. So this is what is going to do, what's going to happen, and this is how we're going to actually follow that. Okay. And finally, we would also like to deploy the model. Deploy the model মানে কি? মানে finally একটা model create করলাম, finally model create করবার পর now can you actually deploy the model? Maybe একটা smartphone মানে application, একটা mobile application হতে পারে, একটা website হতে পারে, ঠিক আছে? Okay, right? So now can you do that? So we will also discuss about how to deploy the model, ঠিক আছে, so that others can use your model to actually do different things. বুঝতে পারছো? Okay, so there's a lot of things that we're going to discuss in this course, and all these things are extremely important. I would strongly discourage you trying to use any sort of, you know, unfair means of tampering things, because এগুলা detect করা আমাদের জন্য খুব easy, ঠিক আছে? Okay, so don't do that. What happened? Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. But I hope I have been able to explain you a little bit of what happens in these machine learning approach কি হয়, তাই না? We're running out of time, I believe. So আমরা এখানে stop করে দিই নাকি না? Yeah? Does anyone have any questions? No. So, okay. How do we stop it? Okay. Stop the recording. Right. Let's see. Okay. Stop.